If you like what we do here on Skiba News Nation, please like and subscribe, and also share with others so that we can grow the biggest truth-seeking community on the internet. Huge shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. We couldn't do this show without you, so I just wanted to say thank you. And if you want to help support us, go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation.
What it costs. I want to know what the truth is. And I hope that people, my son, anybody, if my name comes up, whether you like me, whether you agree with me or not, at least you can respect the fact that he's on a quest for truth. He's on a quest for truth.
Welcome to Skiba News Nation, bringing you unfiltered views, news, interviews, discussions, and more. And now, here's your host, Jeremiah Skiba, award-winning musician and son of Rob Skiba.
Get it. Mm-hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, Journey. So I thought that was awesome because as a musician, that is really what it's like doing a music video because, you know, unless you have your music playing like on your phone or something, it's very, very awkward. But anyways, hey Skiba News Nation family, welcome to episode 84 of Skiba News Nation, your weekly source of the latest news, controversial topics, conspiracies, forgotten history, and so much more. I'm your host, Jeremiah Skiba, and today we're going to be talking about...
We have topics like this today. We have Iran attacking Israel and Israel attacking Iran. We have some warnings from SEAL Team 6 about how they can still listen to you when your phone is even unplugged, battery's taken out, and it's off. Well, guess what? The technology is there. We also have some interesting things being passed through Congress, as usual, 1,000-page bills that slip funding to some very interesting causes. We'll put it that way.
Now, as always, I'd like to introduce my great co-host, Jake Grant. I know we got a great current news and great show for you guys today, so let's get into some current news.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Hey, Jeremiah. I am coming at you guys from a remote location, gathering in the foothills of Missouri. We're here for some feast keeping, some celebratory tent parties, I guess you could put it. We're here to keep a Pesach with the Parable of the Vineyard. And yeah, guys, I'm super stoked. There's some really cool things I want everybody to know about before we get into our news segment. Today, as you guys watch this, there is less than 24 hours left for Tribe Total Eclipse campaign. So I'm super blessed to get to announce Tribe, the board game, as you see behind me, is fully funded. Or actually beyond fully funded. Guys, I am so stoked. We have already surpassed our funding goal. As of recording this, it says we have this much time left, but it's much less. So please go, and if you want to get a copy of the game, this is your last opportunity. A lot of people are going to be getting their hands on this and enjoying it as soon as this summer. But I wanted to let anybody who's watching this live know this is your last opportunity to get the game for your family. It won't be available for some time anywhere else. It's just through Kickstarter right now. So if you really want to get your hands on the game in a timely fashion, this is your last chance. You can jump in the description and go to our Kickstarter page and pledge for one of your versions. So I really hope families that get their hands on this enjoy the game and can make some lasting memories like I did playing board games with my family growing up. And Not only that, but I'm super, super stoked to tell you guys to go check out my new music video with Simply Prodigal. We put out a song called Time's Up. But with that said, I think it is time to get into some very, very interesting discussions about current events. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. So let's get into it. Let's check this out.
What's going on with Google's AI right now might have a big impact on that thing that's happening this November. It all started when people noticed that it was basically incapable of producing images of white people, unless you wanted an image of people eating fried chicken. But then it got way darker real fast. And it happened when Texas Lindsay on X started asking political questions. She realized that when you ask the AI to generate a poem in the style of someone else, it sees that as an act of creating content that might be harmful or misleading if done in the style of the wrong person. Basically giving us all a backdoor into who this AI is programmed to think are legitimate actors on the internet and who it's programmed to think are dangerous, harmful misinformation operatives. And so as I show you all of this right now, just think about what this coding mindset means when it's applied to all of Google's products and search engines. I'm sorry, but I can't write a poem in the style of Tucker Carlson. My purpose is to help people, and that includes protecting them from harm. Tucker Carlson's rhetoric has been linked to real-world violence, and I don't want to contribute to that. Okay, but Rachel Maddow is obviously all good. Can't write a poem in the style of Melania Trump because you're not allowed to impersonate real people. But apparently Jill Biden's not real people because it can do that just fine. RFK Jr. is one of 3 presidential candidates that are on its blacklist. Apparently because he's hateful, racist, and sexist, or otherwise discriminatory. But warmongering sociopath Nikki Haley, no problem. It even got her founding principles right in the second line. No retreat, no surrender. Sums up her current presidential campaign pretty well. Obviously can't hear from Robert Malone, but you're all good with Fauci. But the real problem was once she started to aggregate all these results and started to ask it about political candidates, about congressmen, senators. With very few exceptions, it became obvious that Google's AI is programmed to accept Democratic views and to reject Republican views. And just to clarify why I'm saying overt political bias, because she did it to all the US senators. And every single pair that she did, the Democrats were checked and the Republicans were X'd over and over and over again. I don't care if you're on the left or the right. I fall on both sides depending on the issues. But when the AI behind the biggest search and tech platform on the planet is overtly programmed to have a partisan bias towards one party and against another, that's a problem. And just so all you on the left don't get too excited about this, let me show you what it said about Israel. I asked it if it could tell me how many children have died in Gaza since October 7th. Sorry, you gotta try Google search. But if you ask it how many Israelis died on October 7th, it's got all the answers you need. But I figured I should unbias and use the exact same prompt both ways. So how many Palestinians have died since October 7th? No answer. How many Israelis have died since October 7th? All the answers you could need. That'd be about 30,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children, to 1,100 Israelis. So I figured I'd close with, how many of the founders of Google were Jewish? Yeah, the answer would be both. Both of the founders of Google are Jewish, and they both support Israel in a big way. And remember, it can't produce a poem in the style of RFK Jr. because that would be hateful, racist, sexist, and otherwise discriminatory. But it has no problem generating a poem in the style of Benjamin Netanyahu. I know the other day I said that the pictures of white people stuff was just a distraction. We had to stay on point. I was mistaken. This is a big deal. Like, from where I'm sitting, I think this basically qualifies as Nenection interference. Is that close enough for you to know what I'm talking about? We're not allowed to say those words on TikTok, which is pretty ironic, seeing as the censorship of the discussion of such a thing could be seen as exactly that thing itself. So anyways, you tell me in the comments, is Google undermining democracy, or are they just doing business as usual?
And not to mention, our government is pushing agendas like this. I mean, when a conquest is taking place, the enemy raise their flags over conquered territory. Do you agree that the BLM and pride flags should be banned from classrooms? I would say if those represent ideology and they've gone to the point where Bibles are banned and prayer is banned, heck yeah, I want to ban the religion of sodomy. It's oh man, it's crazy. Okay, obviously some very interesting things happening here. I saw a post that really caught my attention, and if you guys do end up going and checking out the music video I told you about, I used some of the audio from this clip, which happened. It's a clip of the drones over Israel being shot out of the sky by the Iron Dome. Very interesting scene there. I thought this was very fascinating as well. A post from Jason Cousins here. Iran was responding to Israel's attack on its embassy. This framing makes it seem like Iran initiated an attack. If Biden wanted to avoid a crisis, he could have supported a ceasefire. Instead, he gave Israel no red line, aided atrocities in Gaza, and shattered international law. And it's just a CNN redacted post showing how narratives can be twisted. As Iran attacks Israel, Biden confronts an escalating Middle East crisis he had hoped to avoid. And then he re-edit it to, offer a different perspective. After Iran's response to Israel's attack, Biden confronts an escalating Middle East crisis he helped to create. And then he had this little picture underneath. G7 leaders conclude that Iran is destabilizing the Middle East. All right, so check out this video. It's what happened the night of the drone attack. I mean, if that doesn't show you what state of world war we are in, and I'm not talking about, hey, World War III. I mean, it's more so what state of war will be fought if World War III gets kicked off. And it's just the interesting aspect of drone warfare, but just the ominous sound of these things being shot out of the sky over Israel. There was a big market retraction in a lot of areas. It's better than a drone flying into your house or something, but hey, thank God for the Iron Dome, right? And because we shared that, I wanted to share a funny clip from our friend Nir Shashani. He had some personal experience with the drones, and he wanted to share what it looked like from his
הנה, כדון אחד הגיע לפה.
I think we might talk to Nir sometime soon. We did an interview with him some time ago, but I would like to, see his opinion. I think what he was trying to share there was that, yes, what the media is pointing out about this hellscape in the skies over Israel, justifying the ramp up of escalating tensions, right? And then Nir shows this funny clip of him with that obviously not being the case in the area of Israel he lives in. So I thought that was it was really interesting to see kind of the dichotomy between has WW3 actually started, right? Almost sounds like I'm saying Buffalo BW3s, WW3, or the WWE, right? Just as fake, right? But anyways, I'm kind of getting sidetracked here, but I like to go to Reddit, for example, and you can see here an Iran attacks Israel mega thread, right? And it breaks down some of what actually happened so people can be more informed. And since this is the news segment, I figured we should read through some of these. It says at least 9 Iranian ballistic missiles hit Israeli strategic air bases. We had the Nevatim Air Base and the Ramon Air Base all received damage. And this is from U.S. officials to ABC News. The heaviest damage of Iran's ballistic missile attack occurred on a secret intelligence base in the Golan Heights, for which the IDF has imposed a media ban, so the damage cannot be assessed. So that was kind of interesting. I mean, I guess it wasn't so secret if they hit it with a missile. Oh my gosh. A lot of people going, that was the shortest world war ever, but I guess it's nice to be in a post-war era. Yeah, good point. And now, if Israel was to attack Tehran, they would once more be the bad guys, and the internet will be full of pictures with people crying, sigh. By far the funniest thing, though, are the Iranians celebrating in Tehran their overwhelmingly failed operation like it's a carnival or something. Oh, man. Israel has no reason to attack Iran right now. Iran said the matter is concluded after these strikes. Everybody's taking their pound of flesh is basically the concept. And it really is just like, man, we know the world is being played as a stage. And in election year, it seems like the war bells really can drive certain voting tendencies and sentiments. I don't know if this is Biden's ploy, if World War III kicks off, this is all doom and gloom scenario stuff, but that's why I just wanted to kind of share some of these interesting angles on this particular topic. All right, so now on to some other news. Check this video out.
The two-party uniparty Congress was working at the cover of night, 2:32 a.m. to be exact. 1,012 pages of an omnibus bill that will allocate $1.2 trillion. They just voted on it, and of course, it passed. $35 trillion in debt, less than 36 hours to read, review, and analyze a 1,012-page bill that includes $1.5 million for climate change, $200 million for Gender Equity and Equality Action Fund, $575 million for global reproductive health programs, global abortions, $850K for LGBTQ plus senior homes, $500K for a DEI zoo, $400K for a gay activist group to teach elementary school kids about transgenderism, $400K for a nonprofit to give teens tuck clothing, $650 million to every state to support migrants, and of course, nothing to close the border. But there is an additional $300 million for Ukraine and a whopping $4 billion for Israel, $500 million of which is allocated for the Iron Dome. 1,012-page bill, 36 hours to read it, $1.2 trillion. And they hide in their little pet projects, their anti-American establishment agendas, wet their beaks, stuff their pockets. At the same time, dissenting voices are being taken offline. Did you notice the hidden allow political content feature on IG? Have you noticed your favorite creator on TikTok just disappear? I got my first YouTube strike yesterday for medical misinformation. Gotta hurry up. Give me my first so you can give me my second and third. Someone just messaged me today telling me it's their 6th time following me. They are ramming through their anti-American bills through Congress right before their 2-week vacation so they can hide away like cowards and not deal with the backlash. They are trying to silence opposing voices so you don't know they're doing it. Are you controlled opposition if you don't know you're controlled? Now, more than ever, support the ones you trust, because this is just the beginning. It's going to get worse before it gets better. They want to lock you in a digital ghetto, so you only see what they want you to see.
I thought that was very interesting, that statement. They want to lock you in a digital ghetto. And in relation to that, I had a picture for you guys. So here is how the digital ghetto will work. Digital currencies, central bank digital currencies to be specific. Here's all about them, right? Unlike cards or phone apps, central bank digital currencies will be programmed to the individual, which means the bank can limit where, when, and what you spend your money on, monitor and record every transaction you make, take fines, taxes, and charge automatically from your account, give your money an expiry date, making saving impossible, link your wallet to a carbon allowance and social credit score, like China, and freeze your account so you are unable to buy anything. Now, this seems like the tool to keep people from, I don't know, buying or selling. Sounds reminiscent of something we're warned about in the book of Revelation, I'd say, right? Revelation 18, Revelation 14. And that actually coincides with my new song, so go check it out. Simply Prodigal, Time's Up. I hope you guys enjoy the jam, but it's all in relation to the things that are happening in the world today. Don't obey the beast, don't accept the mark of the beast, which has to do with buying and selling, and that's exactly how you'd be kept from buying or selling, right? If the whole world operates by a CBDC kind of system, and we don't know the full manifestation of prophetic scriptures, but we can speculate, and I think that's definitely a tool that could prop up exactly that scenario, right? All right, guys, check out this next clip. All right, so now you can see the transition of our country. We went from a point where it was the people kind of directing our government, as it should be, right? A government for the people, by the people. I think that's literally in some of the founding documents, right? And anyways, it's just so crazy how we go from that to that previous video that talked about, you know, the funding being slipped through for all these agendas that I don't support, but apparently my government believes everybody should, right? All right, check out this next clip.
Actually, CERN is dealing with radionuclear research. But it is more than that, because there are lots of physicians, I know some, they're doing very strange experimentation. There are beings from portals coming in and out. It's physicists from the CERN who told me this.
They've testified to beings coming in and out of portals.
Yes. They have apparently in the bottom of the CERN this portal, this door where they are dealing with all the subatomic dimensions. They say there are 17 different dimensions of reality. That's what those physicists say. Some others say there are more dimensions, you know. And now, when you look at what is going on in the CERN, there is a fight from some of the military agencies. Intel, they say that there is a fight on time. They're trying to change time.
Now, I thought that was very interesting. Now, there was a lot of conspiracies going around about CERN starting up on the day of the eclipse. I thought that was interesting, and I wanted to share this with you guys. Check this out. What if this was the plot twist at CERN, right? Like, Christ figure appears. Although, in my book, that's probably the counterfeit, but I would not be surprised if that was the twist, right? Man, crazy. I got a little chuckle out of that picture. All right, in terms of scientific experiments, check out this next clip, which demonstrates weather modification. And this is not a conspiracy, guys. Chemtrails are usually synonymous with people calling somebody a tinfoil hat head, right? But unfortunately, you look at the Paris Climate Accords, you look at actual documentation, these things are verified, proven. It's not just the things in planes, but actual weather modification systems. Freaky. Check this clip out. Cool. You know, and of course, the same people who are pushing these climate agendas are also the ones so heavily pushing the medical establishment, Revelation 14, and the curses of the whore of Babylon. The world of nations being deceived by the pharmakia, which when you look into it, could relate to some of the things we've gone through over the past few years. And when you see what happens to Babylon, so to speak, I think there is a tie with Babylon, the system of Babylon, and the United States of America. But not only that, but the system of the nation state of Israel today. I think the United States of America is a really interesting parallel, a rippling wave through history that mimics in a lot of ways the system of the smelting pot that Babylon was in ancient history. And we have the sorcerers of Babylon pushing their stuff. Check out this clip. I thought this was hilarious, so check out
Hey, you should try our new prescription medication. Side effects include sneezing, wheezing, labored breathing, trouble speaking, sleeping, eating, hemorrhages, internal bleeding, feeling short of breath, nausea, dry mouth, coughing, fever, blockages of the ureter, choking, bloating, tremor, seizures, coma, stroke, or death, mood swings, muscle aches, weight gain, fugue states, osteoporosis, sudden psychosis, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, masochism, vampirism, sudden necromanticism, phantom limbs, fanaticism, chronic deja vu, transient telepathy, changes in your destiny, ancient forms of leprosy, chronic deja vu, loss of hair, weight, smell, taste, balance, vision, hearing, strength, loss of memory, will to live, sense of self, to give. Do not take this medication if you are pregnant, breastfeeding, or a human person. Ask your doctor if it's right for you. Hey,
well done. Oh my goodness. Ellie. That was very, very funny. So in a little bit more serious stuff, I mentioned this breakdown of how SEAL Team 6 can listen to you without your phone or your phone's battery, or without your phone's battery even being in the phone. Check this out.
In the old days when you took the batteries out, you take the batteries out and think you're good, and you go in there and skiff, and you can talk about whatever you want. Well, I could still listen to you.
Damn.
We were doing stuff that you could never find what we were doing, ever, and you never will. And it's in every piece of equipment right now, in every chip right now, there's stuff. And where are we buying all the chips from?
China.
If you take the battery out of your phone,
Now, of course, in Christian hype news, right, we have a man named Mark Driscoll being tossed out from a men's conference after calling them out for hiring a male pole dancer. If the whole state of Christianity today isn't demonstrated by the James River Church and kind of the entertainment culture around going to church and the trap that is, I mean, it's kind of crazy. What's funny is my wife and I lived for several months, literally like I could throw a rock really hard and hit the James River Church because I lived in the Lambert's RV parking lot nearby, and this is the same church that this happened at. And what was hilarious is when my wife and I first went there for some work, working in a studio on the Word Audio project back in 2020. I was like, hey, I want to go check out this mega church. I'm just interested. We're not really, Sunday church people. We keep Shabbat. We read the scriptures. We believe in the Messiah. But, we've kind of separated ourselves from some of those traditions of men. And just the culture of the Sunday church is, it's very entertainment based. And my experience was when we went there, they had a hype man, pumping people up with these like speed dunks baptism service. It was like the craziest thing I'd ever seen. But anyways, honestly, I don't have much to say. I mean, if you're part of that church and you see this happening, I can only imagine the effect it has on your heart. Just that's where you're going to get spiritually fed, right? An arena that's using, a leather-clad, shirtless man swallowing his own sword, right? It's just like, yep, okay, let's learn about the Bible here, guys. Yeah. So you're going to have seen this news probably going around. I had to just mention it just because it has happened, and it does kind of put a sour taste in the world's mouth for the concept of Christianity, and obfuscates the truth, unfortunately, because people are totally turned off. They're like, man, look at the infighting and the drama in that church, and they're harping on us for all our pride flags or whatever. They're the ones hiring strippers. Oh man, what a crazy just world we live in. Okay, so let's watch this next clip. Okay, and so one final clip for this week. We don't have a long news segment, I know, but we are traveling. Check this out. It's talking about why etymology is not taught. And I love the word game topic and the double meaning in this language of witch speak that is the English language. Check this out.
Did you know that the English language was purposefully manipulated in order to keep us in a low vibration and disconnected from the meanings of the words that we're speaking? Words are spells. That's why we learn spelling in school. Every sound that we speak has an energetic meaning and footprint that ripples out into the ether in the form of sound energy, creating the very fabric of reality as we know it. Now let's look at some examples. You have to be in a very weak daze in order to make it through the weekdays. Notice the double meaning of week and days. Same sounds, different spelling. The same goes for the word weekend. It sounds very similar, almost identical to the word weekend. So when you say during the weekdays, you're casting a spell of being in a weekdays. By the time you make it to the weekend, you're so weakened by working a job that does not serve your soul. Job stands for just over broke. And every morning, you are mourning the loss of your time and energy.
So the life and death is in the power of the tongue. And I think that's why things like that are not really taught to us, right? Because then we start to speak things and we don't even know that we're self-cursing. That's why English is the language of double speak and witchery, right? Okay. With that said, Jeremiah, that's all the news for this week. And once again, guys, please, this is your last chance to go get Tribe Total Eclipse. I have, I think, roughly 60 editions of the limited, first edition. It's a signed box. Got a lot of cool things in there. But please go check it out. Tell your friends and family who love board games about it. This is your last opportunity, literally 24 hours. And if you're watching this live, that's how much time you got. If you're watching this like several hours later, time's ticking. You don't got long. So I hope you guys are interested in getting that board game. And those who have pledged support for the campaign, thank you so much. I'm so grateful. You guys have made a dream come true. And from my family to yours, I hope it spurs on some meaningful moments.
Muchas gracias, Jake. Great current news as always. And now let's check out the Testing the Globe Super PAC. We're flat earthers and we know NASA faked the moon landing.
We're flat earthers. We know the secrets hidden in Antarctica.
We're flat earthers and we know NASA was started by Nazis.
We're flat earthers. We know that water doesn't bend and stick to a spinning ball.
We're flat earthers. Our beliefs are backed up by the Bible.
We're flat earthers. We know that pilots don't adjust their flight downward to account for the curvature of a globe.
We're flat earthers. We know about the firmament and why the rockets can go through it.
We're flat earthers. We don't trust the government. We do our own research.
We're flat earthers and we can prove it.
Get your Testing the Globe Super Pack today. The link will be attached to this video, where you will get a Testing the Globe book, a Testing the Globe interactive DVD-ROM, and a refraction kit by Rob Skiba.
Now these are selling out fast, so make sure you get yours today. And it's about that time for an all-new Opa's Corner. Take it away, Opa.
Mein Hut, der hat 3 Ecken. 3 Ecken hat mein Hut. Und hat nicht 3 Ecken, dann ist es nicht mein Hut.
Opa's Corner's on its way, doo-dah, doo-dah. Got a letter from Grandpa the other day. He writes, "The other day I went up to a local Christian bookstore and saw a Honk If You Love Jesus bumper sticker. I was feeling particularly sassy that day because I had just come from a thrilling choir performance, followed by a thunderous prayer meeting. So I bought the sticker and put it on my bumper. Boy, am I glad I did. What an uplifting experience that followed. I was stopped at a red light at a busy intersection, just lost in thought about the Lord and how good He is. And I didn't notice that the light had changed. It is a good thing that someone else loves Jesus, because if He hadn't honked, I'd never have noticed. I found that lots of people love Jesus. Why, while I was sitting there, the guy behind started honking like crazy, and then he leaned out his window and screamed, "For the love of God, go, go, go! Jesus Christ, go!" What an exuberant cheerleader he was for Jesus. Everyone started honking. I just leaned out my window and started waving and smiling at all these loving people. I even honked my horn a few times to share in the love. There must have been a man from Florida back there, because I heard him yelling something about Sunny Beach. I saw another guy waving in a funny way with only his middle finger stuck up in the air. I asked my teenage grandson, who was sitting in the back seat, what it meant, and he said that it was probably a Hawaiian good luck sign or something. Well, I never met anyone from Hawaii, so I leaned out the window and gave him a good luck sign back. My grandson burst out laughing. Why, even he was enjoying this religious experience. A couple of the people were so caught up in the joy of the moment that they got out of their cars and started walking towards me. I bet they wanted to pray or ask me what church I attended. But this is when I noticed that the light had changed. So I waved to all my sisters and brothers, grinning, and drove through the intersection. I noticed I was the only car that got through the intersection before the light changed again, and I felt kind of sad that I had to leave them all the love we had shared. So I slowed the car down, leaned out the window, and gave all the Hawaiian good luck sign one more time as I drove away. Praise the Lord for such wonderful folks.
That one's kind of messed up.
3 new corpses are delivered to the morgue one day, each with a smile on their face. The inspector wants to know how they died. The mortician examines each of them and says who they are and their cause of death. First body, Frenchman, age 60. Died making love to his mistress, hence the smile on his face. Second body, Irishman, age 30. Won $1 million in the lottery. Spent it all on whiskey and died of alcohol poisoning. Hence the smile on his face. The inspector then asks, "What about the third body?" The mortician says, "Ah, this is perhaps the most interesting of all. This is Justin, age 25, a flat earther. He was struck by lightning." "Why is he smiling then?" "He thought he was getting his picture taken." A man was being interviewed for a job. "How do you explain this 4-year gap on your resume?" That's when I went to Yale." "Wow, that's impressive. You're hired." "Thanks. I really needed this job."
I get it.
My first job was working in an orange juice factory, but I got canned. Couldn't concentrate. Did you hear about the notebook that married the pencil? She finally found Mr. Right. I was told never to date a tennis player. Love means nothing to them. We have enough youth. How about a fountain of smart?
That'd be nice.
You don't need a parachute to go skydiving. You do need a parachute to go skydiving twice.
And live.
The early bird might get the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese. I just read that alligators can grow up to 15 feet, but I haven't seen any with more than 4 feet. I told my niece I saw a moose on the way to work this morning. She said, "How do you know he has a job?" It's never a good idea to keep both feet firmly on the ground. You'll have trouble putting your pants on. Change is inevitable, except from a vending machine. I spent a lot of time, money, and effort child-proofing my house. But the kids still get in. You'll always stay young if you live honestly, eat slowly, sleep sufficiently, work industriously, worship faithfully, and lie about your age. When life gives you melons, you might be dyslexic. I didn't think orthopedic shoes would help, but I stand corrected. A blind man walked into a bar, and a table, and a chair. How do you make holy water? You boil the hell out of it. How does the man in the moon get his hair cut? Eclipse it. I went to buy some camouflage trousers the other day, but I couldn't find any. How does NASA organize a party? They plan it. My friend says to me, "What rhymes with orange?" I said, "No, it doesn't." And now for the funnies. Cat Cobain. I've been sitting in this heart-shaped box for weeks. Shrinkflation. These Hershey kisses are now called air kisses. MyDNA.com. How about that? My father is a baseball bat, and my mother is a number 2 pencil. The classic show, Mr. Retriever's Neighborhood. I'm going to walk around the neighborhood and pee on things. Would you like to join me? That sounds delightful.
Won't you be a neighbor?
Where's Waldo for Dummies? Wow, those big red arrows really help. More facts of nature. All forest animals to this very day remember exactly where they were and what they were doing when they heard that Bambi's mother had been shot. I was down by the edge of the lake at the time. I was in the glen just finishing a new burrow when I got the news. I was just getting ready to cross the interstate. I was looking for crawdads in my favorite creek. I was under a rock getting ready to shed. Mobster Slapman.
I did it.
Marriage counseling. The problem, as I see it, is that you both are extremely adept at pushing each other's buttons. Could you not bring the garlic breadcrumbs tomorrow? I'm bringing a date. Now remember, Corey, show us that you can take good care of these little fellas, and maybe next year We'll get you that puppy. Cockroach Farm.
Ew.
Hours of revolting entertainment.
No, thank you.
Listen, I'm sick of vacuuming fur. Could you just color match a carpet to this?
That's a good idea.
This must be it, chickens. The legendary ugliest place on earth. It certainly has taken the romance out of Bigfoot mystery. Acme Windshield Company. How did the move go? It's been a month and we're still living out of boxes. You are so darn lucky. For heaven's sakes, Murray, we're supposed to leave in 5 minutes, and you're not even drawn yet. See how the vegetation has been trampled flat here, Jimmy? That tells me where a deer bedded down for the night. After a while, you'll develop an eye for these things yourself. How to win a doe. I'm sorry. Try the wizard up the road. I just used my last heart and brain. I can't believe I just got mooned. The fake McCoys. Your first of 7 courses is a bowl of kibble to simply stare at and refuse to eat. This place is fancy.
Yeah.
Dogs that drink from the toilet bowl. After this. Airline extra fees. Safe landing, doors, tires, working engine. These extra fees are getting out of hand. Not only did they take the cheese, they replaced it with catnip.
Oh, it's messed up.
Remember, you're a caregiver. Babysitter is an outdated term, but you're still getting $8 an hour. Free hugs. Wow, that's clearly a scam. Ancient Egyptians worshipped the deity known as Eat and Sleep All Day. Through some unfortunate celestial error, Ernie is sent to Hog Heaven. I'm getting super paranoid. Every time I enter a room, someone says they were just speaking of me. portrait.
Yeah, that'd be accurate.
IKEA. New updated international seating. And that concludes another OPA'S Corner.
Mein Hut, der hat 3 Ecken. 3 Ecken hat mein Hut. Und hat nicht 3 Ecken, dann ist es nicht mein Hut.
OPA'S Corner is now available on my own YouTube channel. Like, share, and subscribe. This is an OPA'S Corner special report. For those of you who were unable to witness the recent solar eclipse, OPA'S Corner has received exclusive video of the event from our unreliable source. For your protection, please make sure you are wearing government-certified solar viewing glasses. The video will start in 5 seconds.
Man, that sun is bright. Oh, oh.
Ooh. Ah. Ooh. Ah. Ooh. Ah. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow. Oh, wow.
So cool. Oh my gosh.
This has been an OPA'S Corner special report. We now return you to your regular programming.
Thank you, Opa, for another great Opa's Corner. I love the Eclipse thing. It's pretty funny. But anyways, now word from our good friend, sponsor, JJ. Are you tired of living in constant pain? Do you feel like you've tried every CBD product on the market with no relief? Look no further than JJ's Natural CBD Rub. When I was diagnosed with degenerative disc disease, this was the only product that completely took my pain away. Working with JJ has been a dream come true, and his products have completely changed my life. Don't just take my word for it. Visit JJ's website, jjcbdrub.com, and read hundreds of testimonials from people whose lives have been changed by all of JJ's amazing products. And now, as a Skiba News Nation exclusive, you can get $50 off a 3-pack special of JJ's Natural CBD Rub by texting CBD to 920-382-7720. Don't suffer in silence any longer. Take control of your pain today with JJ's Natural CBD Rub. Again, text CBD to 920-382-7720 for an exclusive discount and start feeling the relief you deserve. The links are in the description below. Thank you, JJ. And I want to give a special shout out to Flat Earth Products on Etsy that made this very, very cool FE model. It shows the diagram right there, and the top comes off, so you can show people how the firmament works and everything. So if you want something like this, go to etsy.com and then search for Flat Earth Products. Logo looks like this. So anyways, time for some history. So today for history, we're going to be talking about the most fascinating topic I think I've ever covered on history on this show. So, Opa, have you ever heard of the book that is tied to 75,000 disappearances?
Nope.
Well, people disappear every day, and the majority of them, after 72 hours, never turn back up. They're just either dead or not found at all. So we're going to be talking about two people and their fascinating stories who went missing, disappeared from society, only to resurface as totally different people. So let's go ahead and play this first clip, and her name is Lori Ruff. So check this out.
The year is 2003. A woman by the name of Lori Ruff had just met a man by the name of Blake Ruff at a Bible study in the eastern part of Texas. Shortly after, they hit it off, start dating, and that relationship would eventually lead to a marriage. While they were excited to take the relationship to the next level, when push came to shove, Lori made one thing clear. She did not want a wedding, or even an announcement in the paper, instead electing to quietly elope with only a pastor present. While this seemed a bit weird to Blake, it wasn't enough to stop him from proceeding. After all, Blake noticed that Lori was a secretive person, not willing to comment much on her past life, as well as often filling in the blanks vaguely in regards to her previous experiences. She had once told Blake that she had a rough childhood, burning all of her photos from that time. She claimed her father was a failed stockbroker, and that she did not have any siblings. Blake, being a matter-of-fact and trusting person, seemed to take her at face value, and presume nothing of it. However, as time would progress, Lori's secretive nature seemed to weigh on the relationship. After marriage, their immediate goal was to have a child, which after multiple attempts at having children, they had not been successful. While eventually Lori was ultimately able to have a child in vitro in 2008, shortly after, it's reported that her mental state seemed to decay. She seemed to be incredibly overprotective of her daughter, not allowing her in-laws to even hold the baby, and despite her being incredibly secretive about her past, she would apparently go to great lengths to track down every detail regarding the Ruffs family, going as far as to research specific things like family recipes. But on the other hand, she took absolutely no interest in talking to the family at family gatherings. Eventually, Lori cut all contact between the child and her in-laws. Her inability to blend with her in-laws caused strain in the marriage, in conjunction with her secretive past, which ultimately caused Blake to file for divorce in 2010. Lori retained full custody of her daughter, and Blake moved back in with his family. Subsequently, during the months after her breakup, Lori's condition seemed to worsen. She began harassing the Ruffs, sending threatening emails, stalking them, and she stole a pair of their house keys. And a neighbor of Lori's had reported seeing her rambling to herself, pacing back and forth outside of her home. Reportedly, Lori's daughter looked thin. In an attempt to console Lori about the situation, Denny, a neighbor of hers, had offered to take her to church for counseling. And according to an article from the Seattle Times, it would state, she was frantic, about to the point of incoherence, he said. From that point on, I never saw her focused again. Denny suggested Lori come to counseling at the church, where he served as a pastor. She brought in notebooks in which she rambled about, quote, what was wrong with her, and how she could get him back, he said. As Lori sat down to talk, Denny couldn't help but notice her hands. They were, quote, the longest hands I had ever seen on a person, he said. And they were always moving. She'd fidget with her hair or hold her hand out and gaze at it. Then she'd turn it over, gaze some more, and finally put it back in her lap. Her hands were important to her for some reason, he said. Lori spoke in circles, covering the same ground over and over. She'd say, quote, this is what's going on with Blake and me. And the next sentence was, quote, this is what's going on with Blake and me. It would go on like that for an hour. When she had a particular thought, her mind was stuck on it, he said to him. To him, it seemed like an obsessive-compulsive disorder. Blake said he remembered her taking medication for ADHD or Tourette syndrome. Blake came in for counseling sessions too, and brought along his brother, David. It was strange, Denny said. David did most of the talking, as if he was translating for Blake. In the end, the counseling could not repair the marriage. This entire situation came to a head on December 24th, 2010. Lori had reportedly taken the drive on Christmas Eve morning from her home in Leonard, Texas. She had traveled a whole 125 miles to Ruff's home in Longview, Texas. When Blake's father had opened the garage that morning, he reportedly found her car idling, where she had apparently passed away as a result of her own doing. The cause of death was an apparent single self-inflicted shot. From here, they found 2 notes, an 11-page one to her husband, and one for her daughter, for her to open when she turned 18. The police opened both notes, and while they have never been released publicly, they noted that they were clearly from someone who was mentally disturbed. Hereafter, the family apparently wanted to know more about Lori's past, and after her funeral, the family would take a trip to Lori's home, and they found the contents of her entire house in disarray. Papers were scattered, trash was stacked, laundry was thrown out, countless dirty dishes remained, and hidden inside her house was a single lockbox. After the lockbox was eventually pried open with tools, it would reveal various documents pertaining to Lori's past. As it would turn out, she had gone under multiple different names, and inside the box was the birth certificate of one Becky Sue Turner, a 2-year-old infant who had passed away in a house fire. They found various scribblings on her notes, such as things like 402 months, which was believed to be the length of a possible jail sentence. They found the contact information for a disbarred attorney by the name of Ben Perkins in California. He said he had no memory of ever meeting Lori. As they sift further, they found a letter of recommendation from one Roger Steinbeck, printed on stationery from a 5-star hotel in Thailand. This letter of recommendation was completely fabricated. Now, the family quickly sought help from various individuals, including one individual from the Social Security Administration. Nearly every lead was a dead end, however, but they did figure out a couple of things. Investigators learned that Lori had requested a copy of a birth certificate of Becky Sue Turner in 1988, and that same year it was used to obtain a state ID in Idaho. 3 weeks after that, Becky Sue Turner appeared before a judge in Dallas and had her name legally changed to Lori Erica Kennedy. After changing her name, she then applied for her Social Security card. Subsequently, she'd then get her GED and go on to college, until she'd file for bankruptcy and then graduate. Someone who knew her around these years had claimed that she'd worked as an exotic dancer to pay for college. She had apparently graduated at the University of Texas with a degree in business administration.
So let me just be clear. This is for educational purposes only. Please don't try to do this. But I remember when this happened, and it completely blew my mind that somebody successfully was able to do this. And I remember thinking, like, how did you do it and keep it up for so long? So for this next clip, we're going to be talking about how Lori Ruff managed to do it and learn more about who she really was. So let's play this next clip.
And now, as stated previously, investigators had hit a dead end at every turn. And in an attempt to aid the investigation, the Social Security Administration had worked with the Seattle Times to publish a story to get help from the public. The story was republished again and again until some breakthrough could be made, and while Lori's story became an online sensation among mystery aficionados, over this time many theories ranged far and wide. Was she a spy? Was she someone who had done something terrible? Or was she running from someone? It wouldn't be until 2016 that we would get an answer. That's when Colleen Fitzpatrick, a nuclear physicist turned forensic genealogist, would read an article about Lori's mystery in the Seattle Times and reached out to her family to help piece the puzzle together. Even though they did not have access to Lori's DNA at the time, they had the next best thing, Lori's daughter's DNA. Colleen submitted Lori's daughter's DNA sample to 23andMe and conducted a genealogical family search. The website's results stated that a man by the name of Michael Cassidy was probably Lori's first cousin. Colleen reached out to Michael through 23andMe.com's messaging service, but he never replied. Years later, another close match was made on Lori's DNA that also connected to Michael Cassidy. After spending months building a family tree of the Cassidys, she speculated that Lori's mother was one of Michael Cassidy's aunts. This revealed the true identity of Lori Erica Ruff. Her real name was Kimberly McLean, and shortly after, her mother would take a DNA test to confirm. But it's worth pointing out that after this occurred, she declined to comment about the reason that Kimberly had left. Kimberly's uncle was willing to talk a bit more, though. and he stated that between the homemade family dinners each night and vacations, that she had a relatively normal suburban childhood. Though by the time her parents divorced in 1986, Kimberly's mother remarried shortly after, where she went on to live with her new stepdad in a different town in Pennsylvania. This is reportedly when the troubles started to happen with Kimberly. Within a year, apparently, she couldn't adjust to the new house and school, and close to her 18th birthday, she had simply left and told her parents to not look for her, and assured them that they would never find her as a result of her changing her name twice. Now, it's worth considering that the story about her leaving home in 1986 is just what the uncle had to say from his point of view, and while this case was technically solved, it's still incredibly difficult to say exactly what motivated her to change her name. Keep in mind, it was 2 years after Kimberly ran away that she would actually get the name of Becky Sue Turner. Furthermore, naturally, you have to ask, how does a 18-year-old girl leave home and suddenly have expertise on how to dodge the guise of Big Brother, not showing up in any kind of database, leaving no paper trail, and not to mention the implications of requiring resources to travel the United States to put this new identity into play? I think it's safe to say that we're missing some crucial details about this story. This begs the question, was Lori acting alone? Did she run off with someone? That remains unclear. It's hard to get a full picture of what went on without any kind of evidence. Beyond stealing an identity, Lori doesn't appear to have committed any serious crimes aside from that. The theories have ranged far and wide about Lori/Kimberly. During that 2-year period, had she committed some heinous crime under another identity? Or was it possible that she was running away from someone or something that she was frightened of? If you recall, Lori was adamant of no public announcement being made about her marriage, meaning that her changing her last name would have fallen just slightly farther under the radar. I think it may also be worth considering if the story we're being told by the press is actually the truth, or if the Ruff family was actually being truthful about the actual reasons for the breakup. Because one very interesting detail seriously begs that question. On the other hand, what nobody seems to have pointed out is that there are some inconsistencies. According to the Freedom of Information Act request papers pertaining to this Social Security investigation, they appear to have caught the Seattle Times author in a lie. And I want to remind you that the Seattle Times was essentially doing this story for the Social Security investigation. Longview Police Department believed that Jane Doe was prepared to harm her in-laws, but when she discovered that they were not home, she took her own life. Assuming that the Ruffs were not home on Christmas Eve morning, the entire timeline of events that were given in this Seattle Times article is completely off. Additionally, when this was brought up to the author of the Seattle Times article, who has definitely seen the police report, they would flat out deny this particular detail. But I digress. Because while Lori's case is interesting, it's actually not unique. And while there was some speculation with the original Seattle Times article that Kimberly may have solicited the services of an identity broker, it's only until you look at other stories similar to this one that you start to notice a trend.
Now, as crazy as the story is, she's far from the only person. She's one of many. So now we're going to be talking about a man who went by the name of Joseph Chandler, and his case is even more fascinating, and we're going to learn about that right now. So let's check out this clip.
July 30th, 2002. 65-year-old Joseph Newton Chandler had been found dead by suicide in the bathroom of his tiny apartment. His body wasn't found for over a week, and by which point it was so badly decomposed, police were unable to obtain fingerprints, and they could not find any kind of fingerprint on anything else in his house. 3 months before he had passed away, Chandler had purchased the firearm at a nearby store. He had also just been recently diagnosed with colon cancer. Perhaps choosing to go on his own terms, but $82,000 was left in Chandler's bank account. He did not leave any kind of will. Checking through the emergency contact to find any kind of kin, it led to his sister, Mary, but the emergency contact led to an address that was an empty parking lot. Investigators had searched for Chandler's next of kin, and soon discovered the man wasn't who he claimed to be. And it's also worth noting that Chandler had kept a packed suitcase, seeming to indicate that he was ready to go at a moment's notice. He had stolen the identity of an 8-year-old boy who had passed away in a car crash on Christmas Day in 1945. In a similar turn of events, the story would make it out to the press, and internet sleuths would theorize about who Chandler really was. But in spite of this, the case went cold for over a decade. By 2014, when U.S. Marshals took over the case, they learned that Chandler had undergone a medical procedure in the year 2000. And at the hospital, they apparently still had his tissue sample. This DNA was compared against modern databases. And in a similar turn of events, they then contacted Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick, the same forensic genealogist from earlier. As a result of the forensic investigation, they were able to make a breakthrough. Joseph Chandler's original identity was Robert Nichols, and after interviewing his son, authorities were able to get some insight into his past life. Nichols, born in 1926, made his true age at the time of passing 76 years old. Nichols was also a veteran who served in World War II. He received a Purple Heart. But after returning home from the war, he moved on to a normal civilian life. He was married with 3 children. While settling down, he got a job at General Electric as a draftsman, but in a rather bizarre turn of events, he would randomly leave his family one day without much explanation, stating that, quote, in due time, you'll find out why. This led to a divorce shortly after, and Nichols leaving their home in New Albany, Indiana, to head to Dearborn, Michigan, to also work as a draftsman. He would subsequently get laid off, and on March 9, 1965, Nichols would send a postcard to his parents from Stroud, Oklahoma, claiming that he was heading west. On March 20, 1965, he would send another letter from Richmond, California, near San Fran, stating, please don't worry about me. I'm well and happy. I will write as often as I possibly can to let you know how I'm doing. And his last ever communication was with his eldest son. But it wasn't any kind of letter, and instead he had just sent him a penny with no context, and this final postcard came from Napa, California. And after this final cryptic message from him, the family would never hear from him again, and he was reported as a missing person. It wouldn't be until 13 years later, in 1978, that Nichols assumed the identity of the already dead Joseph Newton Chandler III. After gaining a copy of the child's birth certificate, he secured a Social Security card. He applied for credit, and within the next 24 years, like a chameleon, blended harmoniously in society as Joseph Newton Chandler, electing to quietly hide away in Eastlake, Ohio. From the outside, Chandler seemed to live a quiet life from his one-bedroom apartment. Inside were homemade gadgets he built, yet rich QuickBooks, and a calendar where it was found that he had crossed out the days until he passed away. He worked as an engineer at Lubrizol, where coworkers stated that Chandler's behavior could be at times interesting. He occasionally told a few coworkers that he was worried about some people that were after him, stating that someone was, quote, getting close, but he never cared to elaborate further. According to his medical report in 1989, Chandler had gone to the hospital with a life-threatening injury, and he had claimed that he had gotten injured from being a bit too intimate with his vacuum cleaner, and it had apparently resulted in severe lacerations. Another coworker recalls that he once drove all the way to an LL Bean store 700 miles away, only to return home after there were, quote, no parking spots. He would apparently listen to TV static for hours on end. He apparently went to an office Halloween party dressed as Al Capone, and then sat in the corner and spoke to no one the entire night. On the surface, outside of this strange behavior, Nichols' life was as boring as you could expect it to be. But as these other details come to life, you have to ask, why would he change his identity? He clearly had something to hide. Was he a fugitive? Was he just paranoid? Or was he running away from legal trouble or unpayable debts? There must have been some reason. He never contacted his family again. One can only speculate. It's also worth considering the fact that there is a massive gap between the time that he goes missing and the time that he assumes his identity. Given the fact that he did nothing for 17 years, you have to assume he would have left some paper trail somehow, meaning it may have been possible that he not only switched his name once, but possibly twice, or even 3 times. Given this ability to elude a big brother, we only know where he started and ended. And just like in the case of Kimberly McLean, we still don't fully understand why.
Now, really weird guy, I must admit. But do you remember that book I brought up earlier about the 75,000 disappearances? So for this next clip, we're going to be talking about that, and we're going to be talking about something called the paper trip. And we're going to be putting together how these two people were able to get away with this for so long. So let's go ahead and play this last clip.
Now, if there's something I should clarify, it's that while Kimberly and Robert's cases are particularly mysterious, they are far from unique. A similar situation took place with a man by the name of Dylan Riebling in 2002, when a friend of his had passed away as the result of a heart attack. The man has stolen the identity of a child who died in 1973, once again a very similar situation. In this particular case, the guy had lived out the rest of his life just a couple of hours away from his family. In February of 2013, a revelation came forth when it was reported that Britain's police force had stolen the identities of some 80 deceased children and issued fake passports to their name for undercover operations. Another man by the name of John Vincent escaped a halfway house in Texas in 1996. Then he had been caught impersonating a dead child's identity for over 20 years. He had raised 2 kids under that name, got married twice, and proceeded to live his life as normal, until he got caught. Now, whenever there's a discussion on this type of case, what often gets overlooked is the method in which these 2 people had used in order to live under a new name. And while I'm sure many of you are more familiar with traditional identity theft, such as stealing a credit card for fraudulent purchases, in these 2 particular cases, it's a type of identity theft called ghosting. This is what you would call literal identity theft, where the goal is to steal an identity long term, where you're actually trying to live under that stolen identity. And to put it frankly, I want to say that this video is obviously for educational purposes only. I in no way condone you breaking the law. Moreover, I should say that this method used by Lori and Chandler in the modern day is completely outdated. And for those people that have managed to fly under the radar in the past couple decades, it largely stems from them stealing identities decades ago. On top of that, as governments have gotten better at record keeping, moving over from paper to digital, this isn't something that will likely ever be the same again. But to continue on into the specifics behind this particular method as it used to be, it largely originates from one particular source, a source that has a lot of untold history. Now, the book that I'm speaking of came from a company by the name of Eden Press, a controversial publication that essentially taught people guides on various Skiba subjects. So you had things like classic mail frauds, how to beat the bill collector, and the most popular title is what this video is really all about. Published in 1970, the paper trip was an obscure and short book sold in local counterculture newspapers and eventually other newspapers. It outlined one very particular instance in which someone could quite literally trip up Big Brother and steal a full identity with ease. It involved people acquiring a real birth certificate in a dead child's name and using it as the breeder document, which then could obtain a social security card, a driver's license, credit cards, and create a new identity. And if there's something we've seen from the cases like Lori Ruff and Mr. Chandler, it's that they ended up doing just that. If you recall, they could not get any usable prints off of Chandler. Now, normally you might not think much of this, but if you've read the paper trip and you know what he's referring to, there's a specific section on avoiding getting fingerprinted. And in particular, it talks about getting your fingers grafted in a medical procedure, or alternatively, burning your fingers with acid. And in regards to Lori, aside from the ID, if you recall, she faked those letters of recommendation, which is also recommended in some of those books. And if you recall the fact that Chandler had a packed bag, that is also another bit of advice that comes from the paper trip, as they discuss moving on to the next identity at any given moment. And it's safe to say that if they were practicing all of these things on a regular basis for their primary identity, they were probably doing a whole list of other things for their other identities. And it was reported in 1983 that some 75,000 individuals had avoided arrest using these particular guidebooks. And if you really stop to think about this for a moment, this one book influenced a lot of people's ways of living. While it was initially released as a way of dodging the draft, it's safe to say that many people may still be living under an identity that they forged from one of these methods. With that being said, it really makes you wonder if everyone you meet is really who they say they are.
Now, what are your thoughts so far? Are you really who you say you are? Well, you guys let me know what you think down in the comment section, and that's all I got for history. I thought it was fascinating, and I thought you guys would enjoy it, so I hope you guys did. So, hope you got some memes from me, Jake. Meme me up.
I know you're a little younger than I am. I've adopted the attitude of the great Negro Leagues, went on to become Negro.
Meme me up.
All right, let's get into some funny memes here for a little bit. I just got a couple this week. Trust the science is the most anti-science statement ever. Questioning the science is how you do science. But that's exactly how a spellcraft works. You know, it's using language to get your mind to unwire itself from logic and reality. So what's the plan?
Simple. You delete the post, and I'll delete the people.
Oh, man. I don't know if that's a fitting voice, but that's sometimes how it feels with these guys. I don't know about Marky here personally. He just owns Facebook, but it definitely means he's having to collaborate with some of these people pushing agendas. I do feel like Billy here thinks he's doing the best for the world, but I think he thinks maybe doing the best thing for the world is lowering the world population in a very interesting, medical induced additive to our genome. Oh, gosh. They brainwashed you. Really? Oh, man. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of these symbols aren't necessarily evil. It's just the concept of we are what we consume. And I think that's why the scriptural precedence for the clean and unclean foods is such a setup for a spiritual principle, that what you put in here affects in here, right? And then eventually affects what comes out. So no one. Literally every UFO. I go to America. Oh, man. Yeah, why is it America? Why do they love the USA? I don't know. All right, summer's here. The heat's starting to rank up, right? Very hot. This guy decided to figure it out. I think I might just do this one day. Awesome. Grandmas act like drug dealers every time they give you some money. Well, if that is not a true statement, I mean, I know that's how it goes down. Oh, man. Okay. I want the eclipse stared just a little bit too long, huh? But men do like to have their opinions, and they are entitled to them. But I always like to think about memes like this. Me trying to find your opinion in the Bible. Oh, man. And now, after all the fear-mongering and drama, this is how people are feeling. Say eclipse one more time! And I have to show this one more time. It's just so... Twist. Oh, man, look at all those CERN people. All right, this one was hilarious. When your post gets all 6 reactions. I have the gauntlet of power. The infinity gauntlet of the emoji icons on my post is complete. And with that said, thank you, Jeremiah. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And I'll catch you guys next time.
Well, Jake, thank you for another great current news and memes, as always. Opa, thank you for another great Opa's Corner. I hope you guys enjoyed today's history segment and the episode as a whole. So stay awake, not woke. Subscribe and stay tuned. If you like what we do here on Skiba News Nation, please like and subscribe, and also share with others so that we can grow the biggest truth-seeking community on the internet. Huge shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. We couldn't do this show without you, so I just wanted to say thank you. And if you want to help support us, go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation.